Hello sports fans. As you can see, we've got a Sanguinary priest head here. He's got a little bit of bionic bits. He's got some hair. We're going to paint all that right now. Here's the paints we used. Some Vallejo Model Air Metallics and some P3 shades. Then we're going to use GW Elf Flesh or Bestigor Flesh for the main. First step is thinning out your paint and laying down a coat of the flesh color all over. Going to make sure to keep it thin paints and just push that flesh color in all over, all the way to the edges of the face. And then while that dries, we're going to pick up some of the Vallejo Air gun and do a very careful painting on all the cybernetic bits. We're going to do a real thin coat of gun so that you get a little bit of a, gunmetal, black metal type of look to the cybernetics pieces here. Alright, so that's what we got. Nice coat of gun. It's got a nice black gunmetal finish to it. And then we're going to give our brush a good rinse and go back to the flesh color. Make sure you rinse your brush really well because we don't want to get any of that metal over in the flesh color. But then we're just going to give another thin coat. Several thin coats is better than one heavy coat. You want to preserve all that facial detail, and we're going to need later when we do our shades. I'm going to rinse my brush really well and get some of the chrome. As you can see, I'm just pulling it to the top of the metallic bits. Just going to give a little highlight on the top. I'm still going to leave some of that gun, and there's going to be some of that black showing underneath. I just want to get the edge of that and give it a little bit more bright metal to it. Take a look. It's got a nice bright shine on it. Still has the nice deep dark black gunmetal though. Alright, here's our third coat. Give us a nice solid flesh color. Real thin paints. You want to keep all that detail intact, and so multiple coats is going to be way better than doing this. And so we're going to make sure we have complete coverage, 3 coats, nice and thin. We'll have a nice base to work from. Now what I'm going to do is while we wait for the flesh color to dry, I'm going to grab just a little bit of thin umbral umber and go in and give a little bit of kind of brown tone to the metallic areas. So kind of give it a little bit more of a natural look. So we're going to have that metal, but we're going to have a little bit of nice brown tone in there. Now we're going to get into the main part here. This is the sanguine base, and we're going to bring it out of our brush and get it really thin. We're going to start pushing this into the corner of all the recesses on the face and around the edges, and then anywhere where the face would have some shadow. So you're just going to go from the light part and pushing it into the corners. Don't worry about putting too much on here. We're going to come back with the other flesh color and work back and forth between the two colors until we get a nice look that we're going for. There we go. Starting to get some shape to the face. It's real blocky still, but we're going to go back in and refine that. Just got to make sure that we get all the far edges nice and filled in with that sanguine base color. Alright, now that we got the sanguine base done, we're coming back with the flesh color and picking up some of the highlight spots that I covered with some of the sanguine base to bring some of that natural flesh color back in. And this is the technique with faces. You work from the dark shade color to the highlight color, and you just go back and forth until you get the mix that you like. Now here what we're going to do is we're going to refine the transition a little bit. So we're going to take some of the sanguine base and some of the flesh and mix up a nice intermediary color. And this will help us smooth the transition from the real dark crimson shadow up to the little lighter final face color. Once again, same thing here. We're pushing the color into the darker color and we're going back and forth. Back to the sanguine base again. So you can see I'm just going back and forth between the colors, giving my brush a good rinse in between, wiping off some of the water excess, keeping the paints nice and thin. Now I've got a little bit of white into the flesh color just to bring it up a little bit. We're going to use that for places where all the highlight will hit: the top of the eyebrows, the top of the nose, the very point of the chin. Just give it a little bit more accent. Now we're going to take a little bit of pure white and we're going to not worry. We're just going to do it. We're going to do the eye. And it's alright if it's going to be too big because we'll be able to push the color back with some of the sanguine base. So spread out the white on your palette. Give your brush a nice point. And you're just going to go very close, getting closer and closer until you hit that eye and make the white spot. And there it is. And he's got a nice pupilless eye right now. A little bit more, make sure we get the whole area that we want. Don't worry about going too much white at this point because you can always go back and push some of the shade in there to make the eyeball smaller. So instead of a black or a color here, I'm just going to pick up some of the umber brown and do perpendicular to the direction that I did the eye. I'm going to do a little line all the way across, and we don't want a dot because the dot will make him look all drugged out. The line will give him a little bit more of a natural eye. Alright, so that's not too bad. looks a little bit too big, so let's push in some of the shade color and tone down the size of that eye a little bit. This is a small miniature, so we don't want to have a real big bug eye on it. It's not too bad. Now we got to remember this figure is going to be looking to the left, so as we're going to stare at him, we're going to be looking at or he's looking to the right, we're going to be looking at the left side of his face. So you want to check, make sure it looks good with the eye facing forward and the eye from the side. And I can see I got a little bit of the eyeball color where I don't want, so I'm going to see if I can refine the shape of that eye a little bit. A little bit better. Getting there. So now I'm giving just a little bit more shade to some of the metallic parts. Bring some of that umbral umber down on the cybernetic bits. Give it a little bit more tone where I used the chrome and knock that highlight back a bit. Alright, get a little bit more accent on the draw, and I see I've messed up this corner of the mouth, so I'm going to bring a little bit more of the highlight back in there, and I think we're just about done. Just a little bit more touches of the highlight, and you can always work back and forth. If you make a little mistake, you can bring some of the shadow color and push it back out. If you lose some of your highlight, you can do the opposite. And there we go.